What's up guys, Magic Knives here, and in today's video I'm doing a tutorial on how to fix eye dominance when it comes to shooting with a pistol and a rifle. Alright, so and this is a really common issue amongst new shooters that I've dealt with as an airsoft shooting instructor and range officer. Where I work, I help guide people into the world of airsoft and how to shoot with airsoft guns, rifles, pistols, all different types. And one of the big problems I've dealt with is people that struggle to aim with the pistol or the rifle, as far as knowing how to sync with the sights, because they don't know if they're left eye or right eye dominant. If you don't know which eye you're dominant in, there's some really simple tricks to that, where you make a triangle around an item, and just if you close one eye and the item's still there, then you're still looking with your dominant eye, and vice versa. So I'm not gonna get into that. Assuming you already know what your dominant eye is, I'm just going to show you some really quick tricks to kind of fix or help accommodate for people that maybe they're just starting out, and how to it's not going to be a permanent fix for some of these things. It's just going to be a temporary band-aid, but we'll get into that in a second. But I'm going to first start off with the pistol, because it's probably the easiest way to fix eye dominance issues, and more importantly, because with the pistol, you're holding it out in front of you. You're not shouldering it into your shoulder like you would with a long gun or rifle. So there's a little bit more flexibility, I suppose. So it doesn't matter if you're right-handed and your right eye dominant, or it doesn't matter if you're right-handed or left eye dominant person. I happen to be right-handed and left eye dominant. So this is perfect scenario for me. Or this perfect example is that for a lot of people that, especially if they are right-handed and the right eye dominant, they can simply just hold the gun up, and they can hold the handgun in front and align their sights, no problem. But if you're like me, or if you're like some people, maybe they're left-handed but then they're right eye dominant, then they might have issues aligning their eye to the sight. They don't know what to do. So then what they end up doing is they end up closing one eye like so, to that way they can see the sights with their dominant eye, or whatever eye they want to look through, because their eyes are kind of fighting back between wanting to look down the sights. And now, closing your eye is a temporary band-aid, okay? So I'll tell people, they'll always ask me, oh, do I close one eye? Do I keep both eyes open? And what I tell them is, if you're just starting out, it's okay to close one eye, but you eventually want to be able to shoot with both eyes open, because number one, this just helps you improve as a shooter, because you're able to just keep both eyes open and be able to see, just not have to make any adjustments. The second thing is, helps you keep aware of your surroundings, right? If you're doing a competition shooting, or if you're doing airsoft and doing force on force, you're able to keep one eye on the target and also keep your other eye, aware of your peripheral vision of what's going on around here. So, a very easy fix, at least for pistols, if you want to, be able to have an easier time acquiring your sights. So if I'm left eye dominant, all I do is just turn my head to the side a little bit. That way my left eye is now centered to the sights, just like so. Okay, so just by simply turning my head, it forces my right eye to be focused on here. It's no longer competing with my left eye, because my left eye is the only one centered to the dot now, or to my sights. So just a simple turn of the head. Okay, that's all you need to do. Now I've heard from other videos that some people even just move the pistol to the left, like that, so it lines up with that eye. That could work too, I guess, but I find it more natural and simple to just turn the head sideways like that. That way your eye is now centered to that dot and that sight more consistently. So as long as you always just have your head slightly tilted, aim down, and you should be able to overcome that eye dominance issue, at least when it comes to pistol. So that's a really quick fix, a really easy and straightforward fix. It usually just fixes it right away for most people. Otherwise, it might take a little practice. You know, closing one eye is a temporary band-aid, but it's not one you should be relying on. Now let's talk about rifles. Now rifles, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated, okay? Because with rifles, you do have to shoulder the gun, and you'll have either iron sights or optics or scopes, okay? Now, in the case with most rifles, and ones that I've had to help with at the range, the thing about the rifles is because when you're shooting off your right shoulder, you have to use your right eye to aim down sight. If you're shooting off your left shoulder, you have to use your left eye, because naturally your left eye, or whichever shoulder you're shooting off of, that same side, the right eye in this case, is going to be the closest one to the sight. So you're naturally going to have to train yourself, or be able to, if you want to see the sight, you have to use that same side eye with the same side shoulder, okay? Now, unless of course you have like a really high optic, which allows you to see with left or right, which it's not something I would personally rely on, you know, and it's not something I would recommend that you get used to, because if you shoot one gun with your left eye, then what are you going to do when you have to shoot a different gun like an M4 that has a lower riser? So with rifles, it's a little bit more complicated. So like I said, I'm left eye dominant, but I am right-handed. So when I first started out, I was only able to see the sight if I closed my left eye. Okay, now this is probably going to be more common with doing iron sights. So you're going to be a little bit slower with iron sights if you have to, if you're having to close one eye and so forth. However, with enough time and training and practice, I was able to eventually get over that issue. I'm now able to aim with both iron sights and red dot. I'm able to do so keeping both of my eyes open. Okay. Now, for some people, they may only be able to keep both eyes open if they're using a red dot or maybe a scope. It really depends. Okay, but this will just really come down to training in the end. Okay, so I can shoot very fine on my right shoulder using my right eye with a rifle, and I'm also very proficient, which is something you should practice anyways, is I'm able to shoot left-handed with my left eye as well. So you know, for whether you're a right-handed or left-handed person in shooting, it's very smart, or it's a good idea to be able to be proficient for long guns, shooting both right-handed and left-handed, because depending on the situation, of course, you want to be able to shoot both sides. Okay. Now, when it comes to helping somebody who has eye dominance issues, I have had some people. Okay, if they're struggling to find the sight because they forgot that I told them, okay, right shoulder, right eye, and they can't find the dot because they are still using let's say they're right-handed and the left eye dominant. They're shooting right shoulder, but they still can't find the dot. Okay, if you can't find the dot because they're still using their left eye. They end up doing like this kind of thing just to see the dot. Okay, which looks really weird and you're like a stormtrooper. Okay, so it's like they do this weird ass thing just so they can see the dot. Yeah, just like that. Okay, kids especially, they'll do this because they're at that age where they haven't had that ability to understand the difference of knowing how to control which eye to look through. Okay, but you know, for kids with really small heads, they can get away with it just by kind of doing this. Still, not the best solution. Okay, so I tell them, you need to close your left eye. Okay, close that other eye, that way you can only look down with your right eye off your right shoulder. Okay, so again, this is a temporary band-aid, but it's something that it will just come down to training, being able to keep both eyes open, and also, you know, aim with the opposite eye, or your non-dominant eye. The other thing though is, you won't believe me when I say this, is that some people don't have the ability to close one eye. They just don't. Why? Don't ask me. Okay, it's one of the weirdest things, but some people, I guess, because they just haven't had that experience to really, know how to control the muscles in their eyes to be able to close one eye and so forth. They end up just closing. When I tell them to close one eye, they end up closing both their eyes because they're so, I guess, ingrained with just looking through, let's say, their left eye. But then when they have to close an eye, they just end up closing both eyes. They've never had to really put themselves into just closing one eye. They've never trained their eye muscles to just close one eye and keep the other eye open. So, I mean, I guess they can't wink really at that well then, right? So, in those cases, if they cannot close an eye or, force themselves to look through the other eye, unfortunately, there's not much of a fix here, at least not an instant fix. You will have to tell them, okay, unfortunately, if you want to aim, you're going to have to go lefty. All right, so that is the one situation where I've heard other people say, oh, like, you shouldn't tell them to switch hands or switch shoulders, and it's terrible advice. I think they only mean this when it comes to pistols, or they don't realize it's like, when they say this advice is like for rifles, because for rifles you do have to use one particular eye with a certain shoulder. But yeah, so in this case, if they're really struggling and they cannot, if they're right-handed and they can't close that left eye to look through the right eye, you gotta tell them, sorry, but you're gonna have to. Looks like you're gonna have to go lefty. Okay, because until they can train their eyes, or they train themselves to either close that one eye to look through the other eye, or they can train their brain and their mind to know, okay, now I'm shooting off my right shoulder, now I gotta look through the sight with my right eye. It's gonna take some time. In the meantime, you're just gonna have to, you're gonna take a hit one way or another. You're gonna have to just go lefty. That way you can aim down the sight and not have to strain yourself by doing so. Okay, so again, in this particular case, these are just temporary band-aids to help a new shooter get started, or some of the things you might come across if you're teaching somebody new. Rifles especially, if they're having that eye dominance issue, it is going to come down to training, because unfortunately with shooting, it might seem simple to some people, but it really, it's more to it than just your hands and your body. It's also your brain and your eyes, how you acquire and sync with the sights and everything like that. So just like with anything, guys, it takes practice. So just know that when you're teaching people that they might have these issues, but you always will be able to know the diagnosis or how to assess when somebody's having these issues just by the habits that they might be doing. Okay, so hopefully through this video you can kind of know, okay, if somebody's struggling, not seeing the dot, or they're having issues, you know exactly how to properly assess and diagnose the problem for them, depending on what their capabilities are. If they're able to close one eye, if they're able to tilt their head, if they're able to, if not, then sometimes you're just gonna have to switch shoulders. Alright, so hopefully this video is helpful for you. Hopefully, if you have questions, leave them down in the comments below. Otherwise, hope to see you guys in my future videos, and until next time, peace out, guys.